we can do so much more than sometimes we think we're able to do. When you, like I said, when you start showing up, um, God will begin to show you different parts of yourself that you didn't really recognize. And He'll just stretch you uh, to be able to have more capacity to do things that you didn't think that you could do.
You're listening to the Songwriter Gospel Podcast. We exist to inspire, elevate, and empower aspiring, emerging Christian songwriters, artists, and musicians to share your music and message with the world. Listen to honest conversations, powerful testimonies, tips and insights on how to overcome fear, doubt, and other limiting beliefs to help you live in your creative purpose and the calling God placed on your life and get your music heard. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Songwriter Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Arnold Peters, and you listen to episode 12. Today's episode, I speak with indie gospel artist and New York native Diane Malloy about building a village around your music and how God can open doors when you take time to invest in people. Diane Malloy is an artist who merges the beauty of R&B notes with the spirituality of gospel messages to advocate for personal freedom through a relationship with God. She's also a wife and mom of one and has released 2 singles within the past year herself. So in this episode, we talk about Diane's journey into music and becoming a gospel artist, how she's built a village that's helped her to release her music, ways God has opened doors for her from investing in people. She shares some lessons she's been learning being in the indie gospel music industry. She also shares a very powerful story of how God has used a moment of tremendous grief to help propel her message of hope through her music. Listen, this was a really great, inspiring episode from Diane. Not only did she share some great tips and testimonies, but she really opened up her heart to give us a peek inside into how God can use our brokenness to bring a beautiful message out from us. So make sure you listen to this one through the end because, listen, it was good. Anyway, let's get right into it. Hey, so today I'm joined by a very special guest, Diane Malloy, coming to us today from the Bronx, New York. Um, Diane, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm super excited about today.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. And I know we've met online, I think sometime last year.
Mhm.
We kind of been talking on and off here, so it's good to finally kind of talk semi in person.
Yeah.
And to kind of and also just to kind of hear a little bit more about your journey and your story as well, and hear what God's been doing through you and your music, and some of the things that you've been learning throughout the process. So that being said, let's get right into it. What first got you into music? Where did it all begin for you?
So most people that know me fairly well, they'll know that I grew up in church. So that was kind of like my initial foundation, with the different church choirs and youth groups that I was a part of. But maybe something that people don't really know is that the first person who actually saw that I had musical talent was actually a kindergarten teacher of mine.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, so she kind of started me off with the idea of, oh wow, maybe I can sing. So that was kind of cool. Which is why one of the reasons why I always say that teachers are so very important.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. That's really good. And you said it, I wouldn't expect you would normally expect the teacher to be the one to kind of push you with the music side at least, But it's interesting that's where your inspiration kind of came from.
Yeah, yeah. She was a very cool like 80s eclectic looking teacher with the
Mhm.
spiky hair and all that and she just really had a heart for kids and the arts. So she really would push us to sing in class and get up on the stage, use a little play school mic. Like it was a
Mhm.
whole thing, that she made us proud and excited about music and singing. So that's kind of what planted the seed for me.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
So, like from there, I guess, what happened next?
Yeah, so I just dug deeper into singing with the choir and trying to learn the basic foundations of like music and harmony and even, taking a solo and what do you do with a solo, and how to kind of like add things that weren't in the original composition, like add inspirational words, or what we call like ad libbing, stuff like
Hmm.
that. And then from there, just started with different smaller groups. I was invited to be a part of the praise team when I was 16, which was really awesome because I was like the only young person on the praise team. It was a group of, a little bit older to fairly older women that were a part of that at my home church as a kid. And I was like the only young person on the team. And at first, I was like, I mean, I don't know if I belong here. Like, like, but I was like, it's an honor, so I'll try. And that taught me so much. It taught me a lot about worship, about being consistent, about practicing, about being a part of a smaller team, and how you play a particular role. So that all grew into other things. From then, I was in a group in high school, and we did some fun things, going out to different churches to sing, doing some school events and whatnot. So that all kept like the passion that I had for music. I also had a very awesome music teacher, Mr. Martin, who I'll always remember in high school. So I think I had him from like ninth to 11th grade, and that like played a huge role about on in my passion for music as well. He would introduce all type of things, choir songs, negro spirituals, all these different type of musical elements that made me curious, and happy to be a part of what was going on musically.
Yeah, that's really good. And it seems like teachers are really really have played a big role in your music experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I look back and I really begin to talk about it, like at least those two teachers, like they really played a
Mm,
really a strong part in who I am today.
mm, yeah. So take us a bit into like what kind of led you now to want to start becoming a gospel artist or gospel indie artist and stepping more into the music ministry?
Oh yeah, so okay, so from there, I went to college. I went away to college. At the time I was in for the first 2 years of my college experience, I went to Nyack College. And at the time they were in Rockland County. And I was away for a bit, and then like, every so often, you come back up for like spring break and what have you. So one particular break, there was a showcase, a gospel showcase in New York City, in Manhattan, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I want to try to, be a part of that. I was kind of curious about, what that might, look and feel like. So I signed up for that. Met a pretty cool producer that kind of helped me, played for me during that showcase, and it gave me a taste of like what actually performing as like a solo artist might be. And I
Mm,
was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then from there, I met, this other producer who was like, I think I want to work with you on some stuff, and I just began to continue to write. Because at the time I had, I had a little things written in my, notebook somewhere,
mhm,
in a desk or whatever. But and I knew that these were songs that God was giving me, but I didn't really have the platform or the money to get in a studio or record myself at the time. But just entering that showcase and meeting those two producers, that kind of gave me like a segue into that. And then I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. So started recording some things, and it just naturally blossomed from there.
mm. Yeah, that's nice. I think it's really interesting, how just having that showcase that kind of brought you a little taste into becoming being an artist and kind of performing.
Yeah.
So like from that point, what kind of led you to start releasing your first single?
Okay, so I continued to work with one of the producers over the course of a couple years, and then just being in the studio, beginning to write more and more, and I was like, wow, I really have a lot of material here, and I know that these are songs that God has given me, and I know that they're not just meant for me or meant for just this studio environment. So I was like, you know what? I think I want to like get this actually out. So I continued to work towards that. And I knew that also, I felt like my songs had a particular place where maybe something was missing. The way that my songs are, they're very transparent. They really sound like someone actually talking to God, not only just about him or at people. And I feel like there's a real need for that sometimes. Um, and I feel like because we are a body, there are so many, the body of Christ, where there's so many aspects and functions of this body.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wanted to show up and, play my part in it, and add to the conversation because all the parts are necessary.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I needed to show up in that way.
Yeah, I love that. And I love one the message that you said, just the fact that kind of talk more to God and a little more personal and more transparent.
Yeah.
And also just like you recognizing that you had something different to offer and
Mhm.
realizing that your message was important and needed because there's certain people out there who need to hear it, you know? I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
definitely.
So next, I want to ask you this question, because there's something about you that I know that I loved about you when I kind of met you first on online, and was that you've been very big on supporting other artists, in the gospel music community or just in the Christian music community, period. Can you talk to us about why you feel that's important to support others in the community?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many reasons. One, because I am really actually a big lover of music. Like, to me, like finding new music, I'm like a kid in the candy store. It's just
Mhm.
like, oh wow, new sounds. This is amazing. So that's one element of it. And two, like i- as an artist, like it can be hard a lot of the times when you feel like you don't have the support or no one's listening to your music that you like poured your heart out and you spent a lot of money and invested in. And so it's always nice, when you have someone that's like, hey, I see you, and I'm liking what you do, and to acknowledge that it's a boost of confidence, and it often helps us to continue to push on where sometimes you can otherwise get discouraged.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason why I do it. And also too, because like this is the word of God. Like this is ministry. This is a message
Hmm.
that we're sharing, and it has to get out, and it should be heard by multiple ears. So if I hear something that I really like, or just something that I think that would minister to someone, I'm all about sharing it because it doesn't always have to be my voice to do it. You know what I mean? And I think if you're gonna say that you're a Christian artist or a Christian who does music, then we shouldn't be so selfish and self-centered with our platform and just always think that it has to be us to do
Yeah.
it. The Bible speaks a lot about these things. It also mentions like one plants, another waters, but
Hmm.
God gives the increase.
Yeah.
So you don't always have to be the voice. You could give someone else a turn because it might be their voice that they need to hear to speak to that particular part in them that would identify with what's being said and give
Yeah.
more of an interest for them to, want to look into this further. And I think the more that we do that, that's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think you're right. It's very important. I love the way you put it. Like you said, the one plants, one waters, and like you said, we're all part of that body of Christ. And it's you're right. It's important to support each other and to push each other along because there's people we can't reach. There's some people that you can't reach that someone else can, and by pushing someone else's message in their music, I think that helps to further the kingdom of God. Further and help to continue to build it.
Yeah, definitely. Mhm.
Yeah, I really love that. So let me ask you this next. Like, I was trying to talk about, having support and a little bit about your village. Like, I know your last single, you talked a lot about or you've been talking a lot about the village that it took to kind of build it. So tell us a bit about how you've built your village and the community around your music.
Yeah, I think it's just, A lot of it has to do with me just showing up to places or in environments, um, even if I'm afraid or scared. Sometimes you just have to show up and you have to be in the room, and you never know what God will do with that, and who He will connect you to, or who will have a heart or start to take an interest in what you do. But you first have to kind of just show up, you know.
Mm,
So a lot of that has happened from then, and just also when you show up, be genuine, be yourself. Not showing up to put on airs, but just be who God made you to be. And then the right people will kind of gravitate towards that, and you will begin to be able to build your community, to build your village. Yeah, and also to not be afraid to invest in yourself and in
mm,
what you're trying to do, because sometimes in you investing initially, it shows people how serious you are about what you're trying to do,
mm.
and then from there they may even give you things that you did not pay for, or you did not ask for. I've had that happen to me even recently, with trying to do some marketing. I connected with someone from actually Clubhouse.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they did a bit of marketing for me on this Dear God's single. Gospel Music Buzz actually is who did some of that work for me.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and from there, the gentleman Sherwin, who is actually behind that brand, he actually did a lot more things for me that I didn't even ask for,
Wow.
because I had initially said, yeah, I will invest in myself.
Mm.
I will put a value, a dollar amount to what I'm trying to do. So when people see that, and if you got a pretty decent thing going on that people can get behind and believe in, sometimes they show up for you in ways that you didn't even think or ask for.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Great message, number one.
Hmm.
Um, and I love that, like you said, just showing up, and giving of yourself and investing, like you said. I think it's very important. But I love how you talked about just how you just showing up, and supporting other people as well. How God has sometimes you never know where God's going to lead you from that, you know,
Yeah. Hmm.
and what kind of doors He'll open. So let me ask you this, kind of just get dig a little deep into that. Is you know, tell us a little bit about some, because you kind of mentioned one, but tell us a little bit about some other ways you've seen God kind of open doors since you've started showing up, and also just from you supporting other people. What's some ways that God's opened up doors through those experiences?
Yeah. Okay. So God has really been doing some interesting things because of what I've tried to do, and just because He's good. But
Mm.
but during the course of the first single, Please Don't Go, to the second single I just put out, Dear God, like I've seen Him do some really cool things. And one of them is it happened because like you said, like I try to support other people. Um the Gospel Underground podcast. That's a really good resource for gospel artists or just Christian artists in general. But anyway, so I'm a supporter of that podcast. I listen to it quite frequently, and I just try to I reposted I think like a story of theirs, and the sister Janice, who's behind that brand,
Mhm.
she was like really appreciative of that, and I think that kind of like put me on her radar. And then from there, like she actually ended up spotlighting me in one of her podcast episodes, and
Nice.
and put me on her playlist as well. And that like really touched me, because like when I do things like this, it's not uh, really with the intent of someone to turn around and spotlight or highlight me, but it's all, because I really think like it's a good resource, and I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
enjoy what they're saying, and what they have to give. So yeah, so I will do things like that, and from there, other things start to happen. And I think when you're genuine in that way, there's a special type of blessing that comes that kind of comes with that. So that's one of the ways. And then the most recent thing, which is really interesting. So I had a reel done for me actually by Gospel Music Buzz.
Mm,
And from there, someone that I do not know, who's a part of this non for profit organization, um, they're called Stop Hiding. And
okay.
a part of their mission is to really speak to people who, children who have been abused, or even adults that have been abused by sex trafficking.
Mm,
So they saw my reel, and we don't have any friends in common. You know, sometimes you have friends in common, so that's why you see like a post. But they
yeah, yeah.
actually just happen to see the reel, and they're having an event actually on Saturday where I'm gonna end up ministering at.
Wow.
So like these are doors that are being opened just because like I've showed up in a space, and I've sown seeds in other places, and because of that, like other things, other doors are being opened. And I really just am amazed. My mind is blown oftentimes by these
Mm,
things. And I'm really just grateful. And I just want to just continue to show up in the space and, just do what God wants me to do, to be able to minister to people wherever He has me to go.
yeah. I really love that. That's really good. Um, because I think that's a great testament to the fact, like you said, just the fact of showing up and just being like you said, being a support to other people and just being there for other people. As you call it, sowing seeds. I think that's really great that like because God, has used that to open doors for you and allowed you to have opportunities that you may have never had before.
Yeah,
I really love that.
definitely.
So let's talk about this next. As you've kind of been in the music ministry, or in the gospel music industry, not ministry, industry, sorry. I've been in the industry a little bit, as an independent artist.
Mhm.
What's some things that, I'll say for acts like this, what's some things that you've been learning, in the process? And then also what's some things you wish you knew before you kind of started this as well?
Okay. Things I've been learning is that like we can do so much more than sometimes we think that we're able to do. When you, like I said, when you start showing up, God will begin to show you different parts of yourself that you didn't really recognize. And He'll just stretch you uh, to be able to have more capacity to do things that you didn't think that you could do. For instance, there was a time because I am an introvert, and I
Mhm,
don't know if that shows, but I am.
mm,
There was a time that I did not think I would be able to do something like this today. To be sitting here talking to you on camera, on your podcast, about myself for an extended amount of time.
mhm.
Like, I didn't think that I could really do things like
Yeah,
that. But being, having just like the introductory into the industry a little bit. I've been able to have a couple of interviews, been on a couple of radio interviews and whatnot. So it's kind of like this muscle that you begin to develop, and God tells you, yes, you actually can do this. Like
yeah, yeah,
you can. So that's one thing that I've been learning, and also because as an indie artist you often do a lot of things yourself. It's super hands-on. I mean, yes, where you can definitely try to outsource, but because there's just so much to do, and sometimes your resources are limited,
mm,
you can't really afford to, do all the bells and whistles all the time. So a lot of times you have to do things yourself. So it has taught me that I can do various different things, like creatively think of different strategies about how to push something out or promote something, create different systems. Like the other week, like I was putting together like this Google Doc for me to be able to have like a booking request.
Mm.
So like I just like, started to put on different hats.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been something that I've learned that I could do. I could definitely be in the creative space, but I can also put on like the business hat and just begin to plan things out where needed. So that's one thing. And then your other question was what I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Was that it? Okay.
Before you kind of got into it. Yep.
What I wish I knew. So many things I wish I knew, but but if I was just to boil it down to one, I really wish I knew um the real importance of having systems in place and also having contracts for things.
Mm.
Like that is like super super important. And I know for a lot of gospel Christian artists, the heart um often goes first in what we're trying to do to minister and to reach out to people and to please God,
Yeah.
which is all honorable things. But because they are honorable things, we have to take extra care to protect this.
Mm.
You know, and I think that's an area that sometimes we miss. We may connect with folks that we think um, will be a good fit or that can, take the music where it needs to go. But sometimes we miss the opportunity to, like, kind of put things in writing. To make sure that people really honor what they say they will do.
Mm.
Sometimes we take people at their word, maybe just a little bit too much, and we need to make sure that we really are taking care of business as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I wish I would have really knew starting out and coming in.
Yeah. That was those are first of all, those are all great points. Definitely the last thing you said for sure. I think that
Yeah.
you're right. We definitely as an artist, as anyone as a Christian period, we kind of tend to, like I said, lead with your heart first. I like the way you said that.
Hmm.
But we gotta do remember like you said, the business side of things. That making a contract, things like that. That's important. I think it's a very critical point that you
Yeah.
made.
Yeah, definitely because what it ended up doing me not having those things in place, it kind of delayed the timing of things
Mm.
where I may have been able to put music out maybe earlier. It pushed it back because all the paperwork was not done. Or it also it ended up in me having to find different resources to get the same thing done that I thought was being handled and taken care of, which led to spending additional money,
Mm.
which is unfortunate because, like I said, as an indie artist, your resources are limited,
Yeah.
so you want to be able to put that money to good use where it can, produce the fruit that you're looking for it to produce. So you want to give yourself the best shot, kind of coming out the gate. Many things you'll learn over time, but if you can have certain things in place, that would definitely help you.
Yeah. That's really good. Um, so let me ask you this because you kind of lead me to this question. Um, I know that I know you like to like you talked about, you were in Clubhouse a lot, and I know
Oh
you've
yeah.
you've been hanging out and learning things. So like let's talk about some resources that you've kind of found along the way.
Yeah. So I would say the number one resource is people.
Mm.
That's no doubt about it. It's
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
So which is why I said earlier, like it's important to show up because you are able to connect with different people that may know a little bit more than you do to be able to help you to run your race and to get where you need to go. And they may not have all the answers or all the expertise in a particular area, but they may be able to help you with one set of things. And then from there, connect you with someone else that will be able to take you somewhere else or give you more information on something else. So definitely people, that's the number one resource that, I think I think sometimes needs to be mentioned a little bit more,
Mm,
and for us to take a little bit more care into our relationships. And when we are able to connect with people, like hold them dear and don't take them for granted or abuse the relationship, you know. Be decent and make it one that's reciprocal too. If
yeah.
there's ever something that you could do, offer that as well.
Mm,
But outside of that, um, definitely, like I said, like, oh, well, like you mentioned, Clubhouse, like that's been a huge thing over the course of the year. Like,
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
met some amazing people, yourself included, actually, because I think
Mm,
we met on Clubhouse first, and then we really
yeah.
started to connect on Instagram.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, that's been a phenomenal resource. That I've been able to kind of take advantage of. Definitely being in different rooms like the indie artist help desk. That has been great. It has helped me to like review a couple of my songs to get
Mm,
some insider feedback from like different radio personalities and other people in the industry, which has been helpful.
mm,
So that's one thing. And then I also mentioned earlier the Gospel Underground podcast. Like that has helped too. She has several. Janice has several different things on their episodes to be able to help artists. To be able to understand certain things about the business and to just get the information that they need. So that's one thing. And just, regular Google. Like,
yeah.
it's like when you don't know
uh,
something, like you could just do a search and then you could take a deep dive
yeah.
into certain things that actually will connect you with other resources and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
also Instagram, like
Mm,
that's the source too. Like, if you put a hashtag in there with something specific, a lot of times something's bound to come up, and then you continue to dig into that and it'll connect you to other resources as well. So just beginning to use the tools that are right in front of you,
mm,
that when you begin to utilize that, it'll lead you and link you into other things, because that's the way that God works. He's not going to just leave you in one spot without any resources or any know-how at all. But once you use the seeds or the talents, let's say, because we all know about the story of the talents, once you
mhm.
begin to use that, he gives the increase. On that, and it links you and it guides you and orders your steps into other places. So I would just say you use what's the resources that's on hand, and then it'll lead you into other things that you need.
Yeah. Very true. Very, very true.
Yeah,
Because you're right. We live in a great time where we have a lot of information. We have a lot of access to information, access to people that we wouldn't have had, 5, 10 years ago. Um,
absolutely.
so it's really important to use those resources. You're right. Just the ones that are right in front of you. There's so
Yeah,
many great resources out there. Um, that even if you don't like a certain one, you can find another one that may be giving certain, some of the same information. So,
yeah.
um, and like I said, Google, don't sleep on Google, because Google,
I know.
it's a good Google search and a deep dive, like you said, will get you a lot of places, a lot of places.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but even in that, like, I just put the disclaimer. With in all these things, like, it's important to, like, do your research and vet people out a little
Yes,
bit, kind of
absolutely,
get a
absolutely.
sense of who they are, and not always go head first.
Yeah, very true.
And be led by God, about who to connect with. That's also very important.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great
Yeah, yeah.
point. Very important.
Trying to help the
Um,
people out.
yeah, right, right. So let me ask you this next. As you've been releasing music, or as you put out music, and you might have kind of said this before, but kind of what is one message that you hope that your ministry or your music kind of speaks to, or that people get a receive from it?
Yeah, I have a couple of things that I'm really big on. One that I often say a lot of times yeah, on Instagram, like progress over perfection.
Mm,
I'm super big on that because sometimes people think that they have to be perfect
yeah.
in order to show up, in order to be relevant, in order to make impact, in order to even be received by God. And that is like one of the biggest lies known to
Yeah.
man. Like, first of all, we don't have the capacity to be perfect. And if you think you are, you need a lot more work. you know? But yeah, so you don't have to be perfect. But you do have to get going and you do have to show up. And you do have to start to begin to look into the one who is perfect, and into God, and to connect with him. And he'll begin to work things out in your life. He'll begin to show you areas where, yeah, you can improve. But he'll also begin to show you how to use those things that you thought were so imperfect, to really make a difference in other people's lives, and to really even add to your own life. Um, so I think that is super important to say. So I always try to push that message out there to encourage people, like, you don't have to be perfect to start. A lot of times, um, it's in your imperfection that his strength is made perfect. And also a lot of times it's in you starting imperfect that you begin to refine yourself, over time. But if you don't start, if you don't show up, if you don't connect with God, then you just stay stagnant. And that's not God's will for our lives. His will is that we begin to progress, and then to increase in wisdom and knowledge and understanding about to how to get better.
Mm,
So I think that is really something that I try to drive home in my music, in my messaging with people, even when I talk in interviews like this, or just the things I write online, and things like that. And then the other thing that I really tried to speak on also is that there is hope.
mm,
Um, that I'm super big on that. Like, my life has in many ways been very hard, but also very beautiful at the same time.
mm,
Yeah. So some would say that that's a contradiction. But
mhm,
I really don't look at it like that. This life can be very hard, but it can also be very beautiful.
mm,
And I want people to know that there is hope, that there is nothing that you encounter in this life that you cannot get over. You cannot, or even if you don't get over like the pain of something, that you cannot get through it. There is grace for that.
mm,
Whatever that, yeah, that you encounter, whatever you have to endure, or whatever cross that you might have to bear, there is a grace and a hope that we have in God. That once we connect with Him, we have access to that. That the grace that can get you through the day to get up out the bed
mm,
and actually say, I shall live and not die. The grace that gets you through the pain and the heartbreak of losing someone very near and dear to you. About 3 years ago, I lost my brother, just suddenly.
wow,
He was 29 years old, not sick, and then just out of nowhere, he's gone. Like,
wow,
how does that happen? Like,
yeah,
how do you wrap your mind around that?
yeah,
But even in that, God was there. I saw God in a different kind of way.
mm,
And he got me through that season of overwhelming grief,
mm,
that kind of takes over you, that kind of makes you question everything, kind of makes you wonder, like, God, where were you in this? um but even in all those things, like, he's there, and there's hope for tomorrow. And I don't want to ever say that I might never ever get over that,
mm,
per se, because that's such a huge loss.
yeah,
But I know that I've been getting through it, and I know that that's only because of the grace of God sustaining me, in the ways that he has, putting people in my life to encourage me, also connecting me with the therapy that I probably should have had from way back when, throughout the course of my life where I've been through so many other things. I grew up in foster care, so enough said about that. I probably should
Yeah.
have been in therapy a long time ago. you know, so finally, getting to do that, um, and I also believe that there's hope because God never wastes a thing.
Mhm.
There's nothing that we go through that is just like wasted. It's not. Like every tear that we cry, he bottles it up. Like, he knows, how much that we have gone through, and he is able to use those things in spite of that to bring us into a brighter day,
Yeah.
to bring us into a peace and a knowing that he's there. So I just want to convey that in my music, to encourage people not to give up. Like, it could be the worst time of your life, but if you hold on, even if you're holding on by a thread, like, you can make it, and you will, because that is God's intent for you. As long as we're here, he's going to have to work it out
Mhm.
somehow. All things
Yeah.
will work together for the good of them that love the Lord. So, in a nutshell, those are
Yeah.
two things that I try to mention in what I do and what I say.
Yeah, that was really really good. That was really powerful. I mean, man, yeah, that's a powerful story. First of all,
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I mean, as you said, dealing with that kind of grief. I mean, I've never faced that type of grief, so I can't relate per se, but I do know people who have, and um, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, like you said, how you continue to push through. But like you said, it's only through God, and just having the hope and the promises that He gives you, and just His word that assures you, um, that there is hope, and that there's joy that will come in the morning, and that there's a promise for life after this, and those kind of things. I think those definitely help.
Yeah, definitely. What I'll say real quick about that too, just to add to it, like,
Yeah.
in recent interviews, I've been talking about these things.
Mhm.
And I hate to talk about it and I love to talk about it at the
Mhm.
same time, because it's not something that I'm like, yeah, I want to share this story because, it's a heart tugger or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's something that I think, is a part of me that I need to talk about, at least for this season, so that people can understand, like you know we are Christians, and we believe in God, and we know the power that he has, but it's not all, roses and lovely days every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
It's not all that. Sometimes there are real deep things that we go through, and I want to let people know that we do go through them, and so that we can identify, and kind of know, at least in some part, where someone else is coming from who might be dealing with the hard things too. So that's really the only reason why I continue to talk about.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I think it's part of the reason why I mean, you have the testimony, so I do think it's important to share that, because I think there's people that can relate to that. And
Yeah.
I think that can be, maybe that's one of the reasons, one of the ways, like you said, through your music, that you kind of speak to certain people that
Hmm.
may be dealing with those same type of feelings, or been through those same type of experiences that you have. I really think
Yeah.
that's important. That's really key.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe a part of the reason why God has you in this ministry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So yeah, just kind of wrap it up. So let's talk about what's next for you and your music ministry.
Okay, so this is my intent and my hope, about what's next, because we never really know, but but my hope and my aim, and what I'm putting my efforts to, is to just continue to release more music. I want to put together like an EP of songs. So that's the goal for really what's next, and I wanted to continue to, use my gift, to, come outside of the studio, and also to be a part of different events and to just share, the message with people in real time, live events and things like that. So those are things that I'm definitely looking forward to. And if you remember me this week, say a prayer for me for Saturday, because that's going to be kind of it could be kind of a heavy event, but I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to, like I said, bring hope, and to be able to uplift people's spirits while I'm there. So more things like that.
Okay.
I feel like that's what I want to be. What's next for me?
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Diane, where can our listeners find you and support you online?
Okay. So you can definitely connect with me most places, definitely Instagram, Facebook, and social media like that at Diane Malloy Music. It's just my full name and then music at the end.
Mhm.
And then I'm also working on a website, so it should when maybe perhaps once this is aired, it will be up. So www.dianemalloymusic. I'm trying to keep everything simple
Gotcha.
across the
Hmm.
board, yeah. And then you can also find my music, on iTunes, Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify. So I have two songs up there now that you can kind of listen to and get familiar with, and hopefully they'll bless people. The first song was put out last year, "Please Don't Go," and the new song I put out last month called "Dear God."
Yeah, I know both great songs. Both great songs for sure.
Thank you. Making progress.
They said progress over perfection, right?
Over perfection. There you go. It even comes out without me even thinking about it. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, Diane, thank you so much for coming on here, for sharing your story, for giving some advice, for being open and transparent. Really appreciate you giving a piece of yourself and helping, helping other artists out there who sharing a piece of your experience for other artists out there.
Thank you so much. It really was my pleasure to talk to you today, and hopefully be a source of inspiration and even a resource for other people.
Yeah, it was great. Um, and I just want to continue to pray, just pray for you, or and just hope pray that God continues to bless your ministry, continues to direct you in the ways He wants you to go and needs you to go, and where your message needs to be, and continues to open more doors for you.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, we invite you to leave us a rating and review to let others know how the show has left an impact on you. If you want to connect with us more, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Songwriter Gospel, or visit us at thesongwritergospel.com for more episodes, tips, and resources. As always, be blessed, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.